So we have the lovely Paula Walsh here this evening, coming to educate us all on light language and where it's come from and her journey, and then to do a transmission for us all, which is very brave because obviously it's newer. But you're in a good audience here, Paula. We're all here because we're interested. So yeah, I'll hand it over to you. You're the best person to introduce what you're doing. So thank you for being here.
Lovely. No, thank you for having me. It is definitely something I'm very passionate about now. So, and interesting that you say it is very brave, because I think in the beginning, actually, when I did start to get activated with the light language and start bringing it through, you do start to think, are people going to think I'm crazy? And particularly where I was doing the self-love coaching, I was like, maybe I'll be putting people off because, the light language is too out there. But, the more actually that you do embody it and embrace it, and it's just so powerful, that I think you start to kind of break that down. And now I'm like, well, I do say to people when it comes through, feel free to laugh, because I know for me in the beginning, when the different sounds were coming through, I would even finish a transmission sometimes and I would really giggle, and I'd be like, wow, that one was really weird, and I've had to kind of say to my neighbours, I do apologise if you hear some strange sounds coming from my flat, but actually it's all good, and don't worry, you'll be receiving as well. So, but they seem fine about it. But anyway, so so I first came across light language actually about 20 years ago, when I was doing just after actually I did a crystal therapy course, and the lady that I did the training with, she'd started to speak light language. But I think, for me, I don't know for sort of other people, certainly from the circles I move in now, and, you hear more and more people are aware of light language. And I think because, as we all know, we're going through really rapid times of transformation at the moment, and the frequency of the planet is rising, everyone's frequency is rising, so we are in a better place to be able to allow ourselves to open up to those frequencies. But certainly 20 years ago it wasn't as well known. And there's a lady called Jamie Price, I don't know if anybody's heard of her, but she was kind of one of the main ones as well back then that was speaking the light language. So I kind of got a little introduction to it then, but didn't really think too much more of it. And Suzanne and I were just saying actually as well, there is speaking in tongues, which they do more on the religious front. And when I was at school, I got involved very briefly with a born-again Christian group and started speaking this funny language, which they called speaking in tongues. But I think, that was probably the start of the light language then. But because I then all found it a little bit heavy and felt like it was not for me, I left that. And then, the light language did, or the language that I was speaking, I kind of shut that down as well. So when I came across it 20 years ago, I was kind of open to receiving healings and finding a little bit more about it, but it wasn't something that particularly was being activated or resonating with me at the time. But as we know, divine timing is everything, and I left my main career just before lockdown, went on a much deeper journey for me to try and get to the root of my struggles. And within the I Love You Me training that I did, I came across a lady that was speaking light language, and I did a really fun course with her where we got to learn all of the ways that we can express ourselves with light language, and I got my light language activated. And you know, light language is, we all have the ability to speak light language, just like, you know, we are these multi-dimensional beings having a human experience. So like any healing modality, or, you know, any clairvoyance, clairsentience, all the clairs, we all have that ability within us. Nobody is more special than anybody else, but it's just a case of awakening to those gifts that we have. And for some people that might come through automatically. You know, there are people that have said to me, oh, actually, you know, that they might do Reiki or something like that, and they're like, well, actually this other language has been coming through me, and I'm just trusting it and I'm just going with it, but don't necessarily realize that it is light language. But it you know, it is light language, but people just don't realize that. And it is, for me, I did have to be activated. It didn't come out naturally for me, but I think also, like any of the gifts that we can bring online, that can also, there can be a lot of fear around it. It can trigger a lot of past life memories where maybe it didn't go too well for us. And, you know, certainly for me, when I was doing the I Love You Me process and the light language was starting to come through me, I was really feeling a lot that I was having to clear around the throat of all of those lives that I had been persecuted. And, you know, there was a lot of fear around that. And also, I think when it starts to come through, you can doubt yourself, you know, because the actual spoken version of light language can sound funny. And you're like, am I just talking a load of rubbish here? You know, so you can kind of not trust in what comes out. And there are the different types of light language as well. I mean, light language is known as, you know, some people might say it is the language of the soul, the language of the angels, but it has many aspects to it. So there are the angelic frequencies, there are the elemental frequencies, there are the galactic frequencies, which, you know, when I put about the light language on my website, I kind of did take off all the different versions of light language, so not to freak anyone out. But really, you know, we are all multidimensional beings. There's nothing to be scared of. And then there is also the sort of Gaia, Earth frequencies and language of light language as well. And not everybody necessarily will talk all of the dialects. For some people, they might just bring through one frequency, they might just bring through one sound. And again, it doesn't make it any less powerful if you're just literally bringing through one sound, because we're all individual, we're all unique. But there is so much with light language, there is so much, because it isn't a human language. It's not necessarily meant to be understood at a human level, but it goes right to the soul and the heart. And there's so much vast information that comes through when we are expressing light language in whatever form that comes. And it's also received exactly as it needs to be received by the individual. So I can do this transmission for you tonight, but actually you may all receive or experience it differently. There may be similarities, but everybody receives what they need to receive. And, you know, again, I know for me, when I started to bring the light language through, because I do bring through a lot of different frequencies. So when I start to bring it through, it can come through very quickly, one after the other. So for me, I wouldn't want to get my logical mind involved to try and think, okay, what's the translation here? Even though in the beginning, that ego part of me wanted to know, well, what am I saying? I need to give people an explanation, otherwise they'll think I'm crazy. But actually, you know, you don't need to, because again, it gets experienced differently by each person. And yes, I will get a feel of what's coming through, but I don't get, you know, well, yes, this is the message for you. And some people do get a feel of a message. But again, as I say, because light language is so vast in what's coming through, that even a little interpretation of it would only be a minuscule you know, interpretation of actually everything that is coming through within the light language. And so there are the different ways that we can bring light language through. So obviously there is the spoken word as it comes through. You can also have tones or singing. So the transmission and the codes can still be coming through with that. There is signing with the hands. So you might find yourself doing coding with your hands. And interestingly, in the beginning for me, when I started to speak light language, I would do more sort of movement and coding with my hands. But now they just tend to go straight up like this. And I just feel like there's a lot of healing and coding that just comes directly out through my hands. But for a lot of people, they might not necessarily have much that comes out through the speaking, but they do a lot silently with the hand movements. Also with dance and movement, again, that can be another form of light language expression, which again might be harder to comprehend, because again, you might not realize, because it is being received so subtly, because you're not hearing sound. You know, you could doubt that as well, but dance and movement is another powerful way that it can come through. And then also in art, and with the art, it can be either pictures that also carry activations, or it can be codes as well. So I will quickly show you, actually. This is a starseed portrait that I had of the soul aspect of me, from a lady called Sahara Celestial. So I don't know if you can see that. So this is a dragon queen avatar, but there are, you know, there are light code symbols at the bottom here, but there is also, even, you know, she was saying in the shape that it's in, it is a portal and an activation in itself, but also a lot of codes that are coming through in that as well. So that's kind of one example of some art. And for me, I don't resonate so much, thank you, with the writing, but I think it's because for me, as I tend to do codes, you know, they tend to just be, they're quite musical actually, in their form, but it can be quite, I just find it quite repetitive, and I don't personally find it as enjoyable as the speaking for me. But again, we can all be drawn to a different type of the way that we express light language. And for some people, if they are feeling a little bit nervous about doing the speaking part, you know, it can be an easier way to start to express that by just trying to allow yourself to play creatively with, well, let's see what might come out on the page. And you can play around with, you know, whether you use your dominant hand or then try it with your non-dominant hand. And instead of doing it how we would normally go from left to right on the page, you know, try going backwards, so that you're trying to get out of the logical mind and just seeing what comes through and trusting in what comes through. And so long as, you know, we're bringing it through in highest love, highest light, highest truth, you know, it's really trusting in what does come through for you, and knowing that even if you're not consciously straight away experiencing an energy from it, knowing that it is always received on a deeper cellular level, and it has such power within it to really get into the DNA, to activate the DNA, to clear blocks within the body, and really help you to open your third eye, activate the pineal gland, and work in such powerful ways. And there's different ways in which you can use it as well. So for me, I use it for myself every day and bring a clearing in for myself as well. Obviously, I'll use it in sessions with clients as well, but also when I go out for a walk, I'm very connected to nature anyway, and the trees. So when I go into a wood, I will start speaking light language to the trees, to the rivers, to the waters. So you can do it to bring in clearing, of the water, of the earth, the ley lines. Also, if ever I see chemtrails in the sky, I call in the dragons and I start, speaking light language to help clear that through and transmute that as well. Your plants in the house. In fact, I love orchids, and I had this one particular orchid plant that just had so many flowers. I've never seen so many flowers. And I remember putting it on Facebook, and it got so many comments that everyone was like, wow, I've never seen an orchid with so many flowers. But again, I just think all my orchids just love, obviously, me speaking the light language every day. They're absorbing it as well. And so there's so many ways you can do it to help clear and bless the food, the water that you eat or drink. I was going to say as well, some people find that actually as well, it might come out a bit sporadically, maybe when you don't want it to, like in a supermarket, which can be quite embarrassing. But obviously in that moment for one lady, it needed to come out. One of my other light language sisters, she'd had to go and have a COVID test, and she didn't really want to, but she went. And anyway, when they took the swab out of her mouth, all this light language just came, pouring out of her mouth. I think much to the person that was doing the testing, much to their surprise. But again, it was what her body was wanting to do in that moment as well, to clear any effects on her. So there's just so many ways in which you can also then intuitively just find that you're guided to do it in different situations. And as I know Sean touched on in his talk as well, that everything is energy, everything has a sound frequency, the plants, everything around us. Just because we might not be able to, in our humanness, we see everything as very physical matter, and the same with the frequency that all the plants and the trees admit. Just because for some people, they are lucky enough to be able to hear the sounds. But, for most of us, our ears can only hear a certain hertz frequency of sound. But just because there are lots of other things that are, vibrating and emitting sound above or below that hertz, doesn't mean just because we can't hear it that it doesn't exist. And that's the same with the light language as well. Just like the codes and the symbols of light language, we can be carrying them in our energy field. They could be invisibly, on our skin, like tattoos. And when we're going to certain places, and sometimes we might be drawn to go to a certain place, not necessarily consciously knowing why, but actually as we go there, we're exchanging codes you know, the giving and the receiving of those codes, or even with people as well. I know Mary, the lady that did activate me, she lived in France for a little while, and she'd gone to the cinema with her husband one night, and she sat down and she was very aware that suddenly she was getting a huge activation, and she knew it was coming from a person in the cinema, and she was trying to look around to see, you know, who is this person? And obviously they weren't doing it consciously necessarily, but when you're carrying these codes and frequency in your energy field, it automatically happens and automatically can be received from another person or a place without necessarily knowing, and that is the power of it as well. And equally, as I'm sure you're aware, with any other energy healings or circles or gatherings that we do, when we come together, we all carry keys and codes that we all help each other. You know, we can help activate something within another person through our own keys and codes, and coming together to you know, to really activate and grow together. It's so powerful when we come together in groups as well. So it really you know, it really is so powerful. It has blessed my life in so many ways. And even for me, I had really bad bronchitis when I was about 13, couldn't breathe, and developed asthma after that. So, you know, I've been on an inhaler for most of my life. And when I started to speak light language, particularly when the elementals came through, because it was very fast, I was struggling to breathe. And I was like, you're going to have to help me out a bit here, you know. But the more that I've been bringing it through, and the more powerful that it's been getting, it actually has been opening and expanding my lungs. So luckily I have, you know, really massively cut down. Sometimes I even forget to take my inhaler. So I'm sure with a little bit more trust, you know, I'll be able to come off that as well. But it's very, you know, that is the power that it has as well, to really help you, you know, on a physical level, as well as helping to clear, like other, you know, energy healing modalities can as well help you to clear on an emotional level as well. It's super powerful. So I just want to see if there is anything else I wrote down that I have forgotten to say. Oh yeah, that was the other thing as well. So just like obviously we speak English, but within the UK we have a lot of different accents, which, you know, sometimes depending where you come from and how broad your accent is, some people might, you know, struggle to understand you, but you're still all speaking English. And the same with the light language. So just because somebody might speak Palladian or Lyrian or whatever the, you know, the galactic, you know, language might be, just because one person speaks Palladian and it sounds one way, doesn't mean if somebody else speaks and they were like, oh, I thought I was bringing through Palladian, if it sounds a bit different, doesn't mean that it's not Palladian. So again, you know, and I think this is where also as humans, we like to attach to an identity, and particularly, you know, I think it's all part of the process of you know, growing in your spirituality. In the beginning, you know, people like to attach to, oh, I'm a star seed, or what planet, you know, am I from, whereas the reality, we all are, and we're all from many planets, and, you know, maybe one is more prominent than another, but we have so many soul aspects that we all have that ability to bring through, you know, lots of different frequencies and dialects. So there's no right or wrong. Whatever might come through, whatever it might sound like, you know, it's all very unique to each individual. And as I say, for me, although I don't get a translation, I get a sense of what I bring through. Sometimes I also get a sense of really, you know, somebody stepping in, and I can feel the power and the strength of them. And sometimes I feel like my back is suddenly straightened and my hands, you know, are even more prominent. So, you know, you do get a sense of what comes through, but equally, I bring through like a clicking sound as well, which when it first came through, I was like, oh, it sounds like the dolphins. But then actually another friend of mine that's very, you know, tapped in, she was like, oh no, I'm seeing these big ancient whales. And then somebody else was feeling the mer people. So I think, again, to be honest, that clicking was, you know, just more of that energy of the word I always forget, is it cetaceans. You know, it can, you know, again, mean different things to different people. So for me, although initially I was like, oh, it seems like the dolphins, but actually, you know, again, can mean different things to different people. Sometimes I'll get the Native American frequency that comes through, and I would say for the most part of when I bring through the light language, I'm very trusting. I surrender, I let it come through. But just sometimes, like with when the Native Americans come through and it starts to go into a little bit of singing, I'm like, oh, I'm not sure about this. I think my logical mind tries to kick in a little bit and I try to control it. But overall, I just trust in what comes through. There is also, I mean, we are coming into the, well, we are in the Leo season, aren't we? But also leading into the Lion's Gate as well. And last week I was sat, and sometimes you know, it is like a bit of a tongue roll and a bit high pitched that'll come out before it goes into the elementals. But this particular day I was chuckling a bit because it was more of a purr, and I'm like, oh, I sound like I'm purring like a cat. I don't know whether it was a lion. So the Lyrians maybe, I think, were trying to connect through. But you know, I think equally it's good to have a little bit of sense of humor and play about it, because, you know, they don't want us to be so serious. And with the elementals, for many people, when that comes through, because it can get quite high pitched, it can feel quite joyous. But actually, I've had a lot of people tell me that when they experience me bringing through the elementals, it's very clearing. And often they see, like, you know, all through their energy field, like little scissors being cut away, you know, cutting things all the way through the energy field. So, you know, again, there is no right or wrong. It whatever you need, you will receive and experience through it. And that is the wonderful thing. And particularly for me, because I am more clairsentient and claircognient, so I don't get, you know, a lot of really clear visuals. So whenever I'm bringing through transmissions for people that are very visual and clairvoyant, I love hearing their experiences, you know, because it can be quite amazing, you know, how it is for them as well. So yeah, it really is incredible. I think more and more people now, as I say, because of these, you know, times that we're in now, where there's so much more awakening, so much, you know, from the great central sun, the solar flares, all of this plasma that is hitting the earth right now is really wakening up within us and upgrading our bodies. And so more than ever, you know, I think this is the time now that more and more people are going to start opening to this, because at the end of the day, like everything, it's just a remembrance. It's a soul remembrance. And, you know, for many people, when they start to bring it through for a first time, they can feel a little bit emotional as well, because it is like coming home, because it's really connecting us even more deeply to our soul self, you know, and all of the truth of who we are. So it can feel quite emotional when that happens as well. But yeah, I love it, as you can probably tell. And I can't imagine you know, my life without it now. And you know, just like I'm coming on here tonight, I'm going to do a transmission, and yeah, there's no fear of judgment anymore. If you think I'm crazy, you're very welcome to think I'm crazy. And quite frankly, some of the sounds that come out of my mouth, I probably do sound crazy, but you know, yeah, it is pretty special. And as I say, even when I'm in the car, actually, I can be driving through certain areas and I'll just be guided that you know, it'll just come out. And I think, okay, you know, I'm perhaps doing some clearing here, or there's an exchange of codes here as well. And, you know, that can be quite loud. I do wonder sometimes when I'm passing other cars whether they can hear me or not. But yeah, everything that needs you know, to happen, I'm just a little bit more accepting now. I've not personally had it come out in a supermarket, because maybe I would feel a little bit embarrassed then. But you know, I think as well, if you're in a situation like that where you are in a public space that, you know, you maybe feel like something wants to come out, but it might not seem appropriate, you know, again, then you can try and do it maybe just say it, you know, in your head rather than letting the words come out, or just subtly start to move your hands if, you know, again, that doesn't make you feel too uncomfortable. You know, there's ways that actually, if we feel like something needs to come out, you know, there's ways we can do it. Or equally, as I say, when we're carrying then certain codes and frequencies within our field and in our energy body, there's going to be an element that's automatically going to happen anyway, just because you're walking through that space or you're in that room. So you know, that's the wonder of how powerful it is, really, which is amazing. But it's really just learning to trust in it and trust in what comes out for you or what you feel guided to do. And if you do feel more guided to try and experiment a little bit through art and drawing as well first, that can be a way of expressing yourself until you maybe feel more confident to let it come out through voice as well. And obviously, as we go through doing all of this deeper inner work that we're doing, that can help to clear those blocks of everything we might be holding, where we're still fearing judgment and persecution about bringing our gifts through. The more work that we do there, the more that you start to clear that, get that throat chakra going, where you'll just bring it out, and you know, you won't care, because you'll just know, this is who I am, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And yeah, it's beautiful. So shall I bring through a transmission? Is obviously when we as well bring through the light language, we can always set an intention for what you can just set an intention that actually we bring it through for the highest good, you know, whatever needs and wants to happen and be received. Or if anyone specifically, you know, would like to say, well, actually, you know, I could maybe do with some help of clearing something, then feel free to say, and we can add that to the intention of what comes through as well. And I was just saying earlier as well, I think I said this before everyone joined, Zoom isn't always brilliant at picking up some of the higher frequencies. So obviously I won't know exactly what's going to come through for the group, but if the elementals come through, or if I start toning, it might cut out, but you're still receiving the frequency. So, you know, like you would any other energy healing, you can feel free to close your eyes you know, be open to receive, say, you know, yes, that you're happy to receive, and just allow yourself to feel or experience, you know, like any other energy healing, you might get, you know, sensations in the body, hot or cold. However, you might experience energy. If you're a very visual person, you might get visuals, but just be really open and curious to receive it. And if you don't feel anything at all, as I say, don't worry, but you will be receiving exactly what you need from it. So I'll do it for the highest good of all then, if there's no particular requests, or you can just say it actually anyway in your mind, that you would like to receive XYZ, and know that it will be so as well. So okay, so just taking a moment to breathe into the heart space. And just connecting in with our I am presence, our higher selves, our guides, and our family of light. And just bringing through a transmission for everyone that is on this call and anyone that watches in the future, for their highest good and whatever needs and wants to happen and be received in the highest love, highest light, highest truth. Kiana taya sukutu ur tataya no kuyesh nahada dekat ir kututua sakatataya kunya hada dekat ir tu uyesh nahada dekat ir kututua sakatataya kiana kawa tataya sukutu uyesh nahada dekat ir no sunya katatatata kurea kataya sukutu unya ia tatata wasakata anna ia katata anna ia tu uayashnahana kata wasakata ia katata wasakata ia reya sukutu unyashnahada dekat ia rakatutu wasakata a ia shanaha wata ia katata wasakata ia naka wata ia nohuinyaha ia sa hawata ishnaha wakatata ya nukusudu ritaai ia kata awa sakanaha ya tu urkataai ishnu hurtaai ikititata wasakanaha ya nukutu urtaai ishkututu rakatatata ya sukutu unya kata wasa ia nakawata aya nukutu urkatatata wasa ia shanahawa ia kata awana kata a ia kata tatata wasakana haya uraya sukutu uishna hada dekat au ishna hada dekat au wasakatata ia nahawata ia sukutu du urta ai iashna wasakatata ia nahaya noguata ia kata tatata uraya suku nyahawata ia kata wasakata ana ia kata urakata ia nahawash nahaya sukutu unya kata a ia kata a oraya sukutu unyash nahada dekat ia rutu urta aya sukutu tu unyash naha ia kata tata wasa ia nahawasata ia kata tata wakatata Yatawasa Nayakata Hawasa Yakatawasa Kianakatawasa Kata Aya Nukutu Unya Hawasa Yeshanu Huatatai Yakata Hawasa Kata Ana Yakata Ana Yasuguishna Hayatu Unya Yakatata Awasa Kana Yakutu Uishnaha Yatatawa Sakana Ianukuata Ishno horta aya sukutu unyashkata awa sakatata yenakata wayasana haya nuku uata yishtuku urtka aya sukutu unyakata awa sanahai yesudu urta ay ikatata wasa ikata awa sanahaya tu uyashtka a inahawataka a ikatata awa sakana iata awa sakata iya nuku unyashnaha Ikata awasa hana hiata awasa kata ienakata awasa kata ienuku inishna hardikat orta a ishkutu orkata tata ishtuku orkata ta hayanuku nyasata awasa kata inakata awasa kata ayanukutu unishna hardikat irkutu orta ay ikutu unya iasaka awashita a Inakata awasakana eakutu urkata a ishkutu turkata tata kianakata wasakata ana ikatata wasakata ana ishtuku urkata ayasakutu unyakata adadikat erkutu urkata a ishkatata wasa kiakata awasakata ana kate eakutu urkata a ishkata wasakata Ikata awa nakahaya no unyata awa sakata ishkata tata wasakata anakata ekoto urakata a ishkata tata wasakata anakata ikata awa sakata a ishkata tata wanakahaya no unya hawa sakata a ikutu uwa sakata a nukutu unyakata a iakata awa sakana haya nuku uanyashkata a Horeya sukutu unya, hireya sukutu unya shkata tatawa sakata ana, hikata awa sakata, hinakata wa sakata ana, hikatutu ur kata tatawa sakata ana kata ikutu ur kata a, ishkata tatawa sakata ana, hikata awa nahaya nukuria katawa sakata a, ishkatu ur kata ai, uasa nahaya kutu uana, hiasakakawata ikatu uakata aya nuku uanakaya sukutu unya ishkata tatawa sakata ana ikatatawa nahaya sukutu unya kiashtka awa sakata a ishkatatawa sakata a Ianakahawa nakata ikatatawa sakata ana hiashkanahawa sakata aya sukutu unya ishkatatawa sakata ana kata iakutu urakata a ishkatatawa sakata ana iakatatawa kataya sukutu una ishnaha Ishnaha sakata ya nukutu u iakata wasakata a hiasakata wasakata hiashuhutia nahawasa hiatatawasa hiashatawasa kuataya sukutu uasa kuataya sukutu uanya. Thank you. And just breathing back in to the heart, giving thanks to all that assisted in that transmission and calling all our energies and senses back to the body, back to the absolute love and the absolute truth that we are. Thank you. How was that for everybody?
That was lovely.
Hi, Paula.
Hi, Louise.
I'm lying down, so I look a bit strange, but
Oh, bless
I
you.
did lose a couple of the high pitch things, and I was like, oh no, my thing's gone, but it came back. But I had all these like sort of tingliness in my like right hemisphere of my brain. It was amazing.
Did you? Yeah, lots
Yeah.
of clearing there then.
Yeah.
Got loads
Thank
of
you.
pictures and stories.
Did you?
Yeah, so it was like more like modern art, but it was almost like
Yeah.
hieroglyphics, but not Egyptian. And it was all like moving around. It was like terracotta colors, and it was like showing a story.
Yeah.
And then it changed, and then it was like some boy popping something or other. But yeah, it's very good, very warm.
Yeah. Amazing.
I got really, really hot to start with. And then I could feel the waves of energy coming.
Yeah.
And I could still feel it. We lost the high pitched noise for a bit, but that's fine.
Yeah.
You already said that it will carry on transmitting.
Yeah.
And what was that? Oh yeah, that last bit at the end there, it felt like all the elements got involved. So like there was kind of people moving the wind and
Yeah.
fire and the water and the earth and all the kind of energy from that, connecting everything, you know, that's all connected, the galactics, the
Yeah.
elementals and stuff. So it was really lovely. So I'm cooling down a little bit again now.
Yeah, I know I feel a bit hot. There was a lot of heat coming out of my hands.
I was having a hot flush, but it's not. Yeah, thank you. It felt very healing.
Definitely. I felt a lot of tingling, especially in my third eye. There's a lot going on. And strangely, like Suzanne said, I felt more of a wave when we couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
It was really coming. And what I felt when we could hear you, there's such a rhythm to it. So it was a wave of energy just consistently, regardless of what the sounds were. It was just felt this wave the whole time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, amazing.
Amazing. I must admit that the actual the toning that comes out even in the last month has got so much more powerful. So you know, that's amazing that even though it cut off, you could really feel it, because you know, when I've been doing it on some people, they almost say they get a sense of almost being knocked back in the chair. It's that powerful.
Yeah,
you know, it really seems to clear stuff through.
I was moving when I couldn't hear you. I was moving more than when I could hear you, so I knew something was going on.
Yeah, that's the lovely thing, you know, it is all energy and sound frequency. So even if I cut off, you know, it's still received. So
amazing. Just a quick question. I don't want to hog it, but so when these languages come through, do they just naturally stop? Can you halt them, or do you have to wait till they're done?
Yeah, no, it's just very intuitive that it's, you know, it comes through, and it naturally, when it's finished, I know. Interestingly, it's almost like I seem to know, and I want to, when I make that blowing sound, it's almost like, right, that one is finished, clear the energy, and then the next one comes in. But it is very intuitive. You know, as I say, the only time that I know my mind has tried to control it a bit is where I think, well, I'm not a great singer, and if the Native Americans are trying to go into song, then sometimes I'm like, okay, can we hurry this up? But otherwise, you know, it's just very intuitive. I just seem to know, okay, that's stopped, and then the next one comes in.
Amazing. Yeah, really strong.
Can I ask a question, Paula? I want to know, do you sort of know what you're saying, or is it more, rather than a sort of interpretation as we would expect, you know, sort of to English, or is it more of a kind of feeling?
You know, I was saying some people can interpret. Now, I mean, I have been told that I am going to interpret, you know, which if I am, fine, I'm open to that. But certainly for me, because of the speed in which it comes through and all the different ones, I you know, I wouldn't want to get in the way. So, you know, sometimes I will get a sense of, oh, that seems really clearing, that's very powerful, that's trying to bring in more love, that's very nurturing. But again, because people can or receive it very differently, I think sometimes actually it's better off not to try and put a label on it, because you know, somebody, if you're doing it in a group, somebody might think, oh, well, that's not how I experienced it, and think maybe it could be wrong. But I think it's, you know, it's coming back to really, because it isn't a human language, it is sort of coming back to trusting, well, what am I feeling in my body? How am I experiencing it? Rather than, you know, we do tend to, which as I say, I wanted to be like, well, I want to know a translation that I can tell people, you know, whereas now I'm just like, no, I know it's doing what it needs to do. I know there's power in it. I'm just going to let it come through and allow people to experience it as they need to experience it.
And do you feel that with sometimes it comes through more in the company of certain people, or in certain heightened emotional situations, perhaps?
Yeah, again, it will vary, because, you know, if, let's just say I am doing a one-to-one with somebody, so depending where they're at with their frequency, and obviously their guides then are coming in as well, so it can vary. You know, there can be some similarities between people, but then there's certain people, you know, like a particular couple of friends of mine that also speak light language. Now, when the three of us come together, it's so powerful, and it's the most profound that it's ever come. You know, some of the sounds that come out of me when I'm with them the three of us, is even more profound. So definitely it's, you know, it's not just, you know, what I'm tapping into from my soul aspect and guides, it's other people's
yes,
you know,
it sounds like when you're doing a healing share with the healers, it's, you know, I find I get a lot more amazing visualizations and things when I'm working with other people that also are tuned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, definitely.
Well,
Thank you.
Sue, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Hi, Paula.
Hi, Sue.
Well, I got really hot to begin with, and then I didn't really feel very much. But since you'd been talking afterwards, you know, my head sort of seems to be, something's going on. Basically, I could tell, you know, and my body as well. So, is my question really is it something that carries on?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, like with other energy healings as well, where you know, would say to people, allow, you know, 48 hours integration. So yeah, it will still be working within your energy field, which again, you know, can be different for each individual, depending where you're at, what inner work you might be doing. You know, you may find that it might suddenly, you might have some emotion come out, you know, so just be open and allowing, you know, and trust that it's okay, it's just energy moving through.
Lovely. Okay, thank you. Can
I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Paula, thanks, that was amazing. That's really incredible.
Good.
Do you actually know where it's come from, if it's from dragons or from a particular planet, or because you said about you know when it's Native American, so do you know where that's come from?
Yeah, again, like sometimes there'll be ones that I do have a definite, because like with the Native American, obviously it's, you know, it's a very obvious one that also our human can comprehend, that we recognize. Some of the different galactic ones, I don't still always fully know which ones they are. You know, and there'll be times when I get a sense that actually this feels quite, you know, a very Egyptian, or like I get a sense when, because I'm quite connected with the trees, that sometimes I really feel you know, like the elders, the medicine men and women, and that kind of energy. But I must admit, the galactic ones, even though I've been told I've had probably more lives up there than down here, but that is the one that I don't always seem to decipher, you know, which it is. I do think that I bring through, you know, often a lot of Arcturian through. But as I say, at the moment, I feel like, and it could just be because we are leading up to the Lion's Gate, I feel the Lyrians are coming through, and I seem to be doing a lot of tongue rolling like I am.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the dragons, you said about dragons coming through?
Yes. Yeah.
Much to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and interestingly, often with the dragons, that can, you know, feel like they're coming through more with the clearing and the blowing in between. But I did do some with a couple of my other light language friends. We did a bit of because we did a dragon workshop as well that Mary ran recently, and she asked us to have a bit of a play coming together with, you know, doing some clearing on the grid work. And I brought through some light language. I knew that it felt really powerful because, you know, I felt myself expanding and it felt very strong and loud. But again, I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I just knew it was powerful. But actually, one of the other ladies that is quite tapped in psychically, she saw an eye open and said that I was waking up dragons in the earth. And I'm like, oh, well, that's great. You know, but that's where I don't always personally know that myself. But it comes back to that, you know, it can come through different ways. So, you know, you can be channeling dragon energy, but it doesn't necessarily always have to sound the same or as you expect it to, you know, to sound. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
What did you feel, Paula, in terms of who you brought through, what you connected to today?
It, excuse me, I've got to go. It felt like, well, I did bring through the elementals. There was some clearing there. The did the clicking come through, or did that cut off?
No, I think the high pitch and the clicking and blowing that got lost in the.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the clicking.
Lower tones were all really clear.
Right. Yeah. So the clicking did come through, which is that, as I say, for some people, they, you know, it's dolphins, whale, but often again that can be quite clearing. But I know for my friend Mairead, when she experiences it as the whales, that it's real sort of ancient, you know, knowledge coming through and, you know, activating in people. But it, for me, it mostly felt quite clearing and a lot of healing going out.
Felt very healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I guess we'll all experience it how we needed to.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Do you have a style of what comes through more for you? Have you got a, you know, a deeper connection or a favorite? Or
do you know, I don't think I really have actually. In the beginning, I did love the elementals. And also, I mean, this didn't come through on the call today, but within that frequency, I can do a lot of high-pitched tongue rolling, and then a lot of, you know, short bursts that go up quite high, and that can be quite funny. But, you know, it's also bringing in the joy aspect as well with that. But yeah, I don't so much. Oh yeah, because I went to Ireland, when was that? April or May? April. And I started to bring through this sound, which I wasn't 100% sure what it was, but it was almost a bit operatic, and it would get louder in vibrations going up, and I was like, what is that? But when I went to stay with Mary Catherine, she and we went into this wood near her house, which was so magical. It really was like we had stepped into another dimension, and she felt that it was very much like the Elven race, and they were there in the wood, you know, and it was very special. And so whenever that comes through, even though it's not ideal when you live in a flat when that comes through, but that, you know, that feels a lot of power through that.
Yeah, it's very grounding, I would guess.
Yeah, it is.
So actually
Yeah, in fact, with the toning, although that didn't happen today, it was more high pitched, but the toning can then also go very low, and that's also when it's pulling people in, you know, grounding them into the body. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Can I just ask another question, Paula? Because you make some absolutely incredible sounds, just beautiful and amazing. Are you able to make those sounds when you're not doing light language?
No, I'm not, because also, funnily enough, if I'm trying to explain something to someone and I'll be like, oh, you know, like this sound, but I can't make it when I'm not, you know, channeling it through. Yeah. I mean, people have said that to me, particularly with those the toning ones that seem to be just really packing a punch even more in the last month. You know, people are like, how do you even make that sound? And I honestly don't know. But it just seems to come out. Yeah.
I thought that too, actually. Are you I mean, obviously you're channeling, so you're in the moment, but can you hear it all? Can you hear yourself?
I can hear myself. Yeah.
You're aware of that.
Yeah.
Some people completely get in the zone and then they just
they can't hear,
come out and they don't know what's happened while they've been kind of out.
Yeah.
And how does somebody know that they're doing, if they're not like actively gone somewhere to be attuned? How do we know? Because I've always spoken a little sort of made up language that I thought was my made up language as a child. And I spoke and everyone used to laugh at me, but it just used to happen and I used to speak it. And then I lost it for years. And then a few months ago, it's come back again. And I'd never even thought, could this be light language? Or never thought until I met you and we spoke about it. And then I suddenly thought, I wonder if that is a bit of light language that's coming through.
Yeah, I bet it is.
How do I know?
You know, this is what I was saying, you see, because it is our soul language, we don't necessarily need to have someone activate us. I did, because mine didn't naturally come out again, because I think there was all those fears still there. But a lot of people that are doing, and I think you do Rahani, don't you, Louise?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, you know, for people that are already running that energy healing, it can just start to come out naturally.
Yes,
you don't need anyone to activate you. So I'm sure you are.
It could be. Well, I'll have to
have a little play and you can.
Interestingly enough, sorry to hog it, but I wanted to say that what actually made it come out is I've got a 10-year-old nephew who's very spiritual, very nature, is very free. I'm sure he's a very old soul that's come in to help at this, came in 10 years ago to help at this time, and he's actually spending time with him. And suddenly I was speaking it to him and I was like, oh, this is weird. I've not done this since I was a child. So yeah, isn't that bizarre?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the children, they're great, you know, activators in a way, aren't they? Because they are here, like you say, you know, in so much high frequency. I mean, a friend of mine that I met through the light language, you know, her son and daughter speak light language, and it's just so beautiful to hear.
Yes, and I think when you're in with the child, I know certainly for me, it brings out my inner child, and I'm totally in the moment then. Absolutely, and the ego just goes, and I'm just a silly child again.
Yeah, and it's that play, isn't it? Because that's the thing, you know, we're supposed to bring in that play with it.
Amazing.
Oh, amazing.
Hopefully we'll get to meet when I'm feeling a bit better.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh.
Anyone else got
other-
anything to add or ask?
So yeah, I've got something to ask. So with the activation that you had, obviously you can't tell me exactly how that works, I guess, but what you said, like being attuned, is it similar to being attuned to an energy modality?
Yeah, again, you know, it's setting the intention. So I actually am an activator myself as well now. I mean, ironically, actually, Mary Catherine, who I did the course with, before I did the actual light language course, she had this this month container that I was in with 4 other ladies, and that involved, you know, her speaking light languages, going on journeys, and I actually think my light language was activated in that because when I was doing my I Love You Me training, I had a sort of a week of a lot of grief coming up around a 5-year-old me. And I had this one experience one day when I was like, oh, I can't feel this anymore. And I went into my bedroom, and I've got this rug in my bedroom that I kind of joke is my magic carpet. And I just suddenly felt guided to stop on this rug, and my body started to move. And, you know, I started punching and kicking, and then these sounds, I was roaring, and these sounds started coming out my mouth, which I realized was light language. So I think actually it had already started to activate me in that container, even though it wasn't officially, you know, a light language course. But still, when I did the light language course, for me, because I still had a lot more confidence issues then, you know, I was still a bit nervous about bringing it through and trusting what was coming through.
So did you go on the light language course because you wanted to bring it out?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and just learn about the different ways, you know, that you can express it. But you know, as I say, it doesn't have to be anything complicated, because for some people it does naturally just come out. But you can just then, you know, set an intention of, you know, so I could set an intention, you know, to activate your light, like, or your soul language, you know, and for some people it takes, you know, it can happen really quickly. I've got you know, 2 ladies actually that are doing my 3-month program at the minute, and within that I have got meditations with light language as well, because you know, I'm kind of setting the intention to attract people that are open to it, and actually their light language has started to come out as well. So, you know, it can even just be a bit like Louise was saying, you know, being was it your nephew, you know, being in someone else's presence, it can just, those codes, and, you know, can just start to activate something within you. So there's no kind of hard and fast rule of what it needs to look like to activate somebody. You know, it is really, it's that remembrance, and you know, even you know, you yourself could set an intention if you wanted to activate the light language within you, and then just, you know, listen to some people on YouTube, or start to allow yourself to play with, you know, little repetitive sounds that come out of your mouth, and just, you know, see where that goes. You know, there's so many ways. I think it's good to sort of bring in that fun and the play aspect, so that you don't sort of get too hung up in the logical mind, or trying to doubt what you're bringing through.
I guess it would be, I mean, there's 7 of us here that do Rahani.
Yeah.
Healing, so even just connecting in through the Rahani and see what comes from that.
Definitely. Yeah.
Because you're already in that energy then, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Food for thought. I think I'm going to have to play around with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds fun, doesn't it? I like the idea of going out for a walk and having a chat.
Yeah, exactly.
So I always do Rahani in bed, though. If I start talking light language, I might scare my husband to death.
You're sleeping in the other room. Oh, bye, Faye. I know.
My husband said to me the other day, he said, I'm getting worried about you. He said, you've got very woo-woo recently. He said, I'm worried you're going to go off and join a cult.
Oh,
Can you imagine if I started speaking light language? I thought, oh God, he'd be like, it's not really.
On the end of it going, join us. We used to joke about that in the body talk system when we used to go on courses years ago, because back when we first started, it was, you know, that was deemed as out there. It's a consciousness energy therapy.
yeah.
We used to just laugh and go, yeah, let's go out and, you know, just whisper to a few people, yeah, we're in a cult, join us. And I'm like, no, we're joking. Honestly, it's not a cult. It's just fun.
That's what people used to say about NLP when I did NLP. Oh, isn't it a cult? No, not really. I don't know where they get these ideas
It's
from.
the definition of a cult anyway, doesn't it? I mean, it's a culture.
I know.
It's another label
I said
to
to my
push
husband,
something down.
yeah, sorry, I said, God, I've spent the last 2 years about saying stand up in your own power and, you know, in your own sovereignty, you know, being sovereign to yourself.
Yeah.
The last thing I'm going to do is go off and join a cult.
And actually, we need a little bit of lightness, and we need to remember our skills and senses, and that we're all able to
exactly.
tune into our clairs, because light
Yeah.
language is like, you know, the clair senses on
Yeah.
steroids, really, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I
we're
mean,
all
like
able to do
animals
that,
as
we just
well.
don't-
I forgot to, I think I might have forgot to mention the animals, but you know, you can bring it in and use it on your pets as well. I mean, I've noticed when I do it in the woods that the birds get louder. And you know, I seem to get sometimes jaybirds. I think I need to tune in a little bit more my connection with jaybirds, but I seem to get jaybirds that come around me when I'm speaking it as well in the wood. You know, so it's
there for you,
yeah, super powerful.
I mean, I think even just watching our own pets when we're doing healing and stuff. I mean, my pointer either goes to sleep and then starts dreaming, or she'll lick a lot. If she's clearing,
Yeah,
she'll do a lot of licking. So
Yeah.
they feel it and then they move it, they do something with it,
yeah,
which is sometimes we can be a little bit too static as humans, can't
Yeah.
we? We're a little bit self-conscious. Whereas
And
animals
animals have got so much to teach us, haven't they?
they
I mean,
have.
they get scared, they shake,
Yeah,
they move on.
yeah,
Yeah, they got so much. My cat was ill recently. I've got like a black, what I call my black healing cat, and he just decided he was going to spend a week in my therapy room. So I wasn't seeing clients anyway because I had COVID, and he just went in there and he wouldn't leave. He just lied in there the whole week. So we had to put his food in there, the litter tray. I was like surrounding him with crystals and things. And I just thought, isn't that amazing? That cat has just tuned into exactly what it needs.
yeah,
And it's just said, this is where I just need to be.
yeah.
Yeah,
See, they know, don't they?
they do. They do. Anyway, I've got to head off. I can hear my husband's just arrived back. So lovely to see you, ladies.
Yeah, you too.
Hi, Louise. Glad you're a bit
Thank you.
better.
Thank you. And thank you, Paula.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Pam. You're off too.
Bye. Thanks, Pam.
Bye.
Thanks everybody for coming, and all the information, Paula, for you, put it in the group. You've got this whole week
Okay, yeah.
to promote yourself, and then we're having a bit of a break, aren't we, Karen?
Yeah, we're having a summer holiday.
Oh, good.
I might encourage some other type of sharing in the group, but for this next week, Paula, this is your platform, if you like. Share your website, share if you've got courses, if people have got questions around doing your course or having a one-to-one session, just pop it all in the chat, and the recording will be up there tomorrow at some point, depending on Rosemary's very busy schedule that she's got going on.
Yeah, bless you, Rosemary.
Rosemary sat on the stairs, bless her, for those that weren't in earlier, in the middle of clearing out her dad's home. So thank you for your commitment, Rosemary.
Yeah, that's very dedicated.
Yeah, thank you for your support. Always
Yeah, that was
grateful.
brilliant, Paula. Thank you. Really interesting. It's
Oh,
nice.
no,
to get
thank you for
everyone.
having me.
Thank you, Paula, fascinating. I'm definitely going to explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
Great another
amazing.
tool, isn't it, to add to the toolkit?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's all good. Thanks, everybody.